Mr. Mahai, my respected elders from various faiths, executives of the IAC, my beloved brothers and sisters, residents of Grassfield. I'm extremely happy to be here with you this afternoon to once again embrace you and to let you know you were not alone then and you're not alone now. But I bring to you a simple message on this, the 13th year, and I believe, like the scripture says, there's a time for everything under the sun. And perhaps, based upon what is transpiring globally, based on what is taking place in our geopolitics, regionally, based upon what is happening in our country, possibilities, potentials, and challenges, and based upon what is happening in our communities, perhaps now is the right time to strike the note with a call for national reconciliation. Perhaps now is a time when, like my parliamentary colleague representing the leader of the opposition says, the bird is in your hands. But we don't hold the bird in our hands to prove a point that you can trick a master. You hold the bird in your hands to determine your future, so that we could get a path that will take us to the destination we're all looking for. Those of us who came here this afternoon would want to say how pleased we are to see the progress that these families have made here in Grassfield since that tragic event. They've been able to pick the pieces up, strike a note of positivity, dream again, improve their lives and livelihood, and seek to get on, even while remembering what transpired here. I know there are many speakers that are coming after me, so I will restrict myself. But I want to say there are some prerequisites for national reconciliation. And one such prerequisite is a simple word called truth. What transpired here must not be subject to revisionist writings. The truth must be told. In the wee hours of that morning, men clad themselves with military-like fatigues and equipment and machine guns, and moved from a destination through the fields into this grass field, and premeditatedly killed men, women, and worst of all, children. This cannot be compared to anything else that has ever happened before or happened after. This wasn't a crime of passion. This wasn't a coincidence. This took place in a particular context. That action and the intellectual authors that facilitated that action must be condemned in its strongest possible terms. The truth must be told. This action took place in a context of commentary that was taking place on television at that particular time. This action took place in a context of hate speech that was taking place on the platforms and the soapboxes, because people felt powerless, because they had lost and probably would not have gotten political power. And there was a call for insurrection and revolution. But I'm grateful that the leadership of our country at that time did not succumb to provocation that could have escalated into a race war. But heads were calm, and people sought to embrace each other to the point that people started to recognize this should have never happened, and may I say, it must never happen again. Never again. So we must tell truth. Don't try to dress it up. Don't try to excuse it. Don't try to explain it away. We must tell the story as it is. And that's a prerequisite that will move us towards reconciliation. Secondly, in order for us to have national reconciliation, all of us must acknowledge the role we played, or the role we should have played and we didn't play. Because in that environment, many who should have been loud in condemning hate speech choose to remain silent. And when the crime took place, many hid for weeks because they knew if they had stood up, this would have never happened. When you acknowledge your own role and you recognize what you did or what you should have done and you didn't do, we all will seek forgiveness, and we all will be able to embrace and find a path of how we could walk forward together. In order for there to be national reconciliation, thirdly, I posit there must be justice. We want to commend the members of the Guyana Police Force and law enforcement in general who investigated and brought many of those who were able to be identified to justice and to face the courts so that justice could have been served. But when the stories are told and we acknowledge our roles and justice is served and the sentences are given, we all have to sit quietly and decide to offer forgiveness. Forgiveness is not just merely forgetting the past, but it's even when you remember it, there's no desire for revenge. Once the desire for revenge continues, it's difficult for us to heal. As Guyanese brothers and sisters, as we remember what transpired here at Bartica, as we reflect on what happened in that 2008 era, what happened before and the days after, we have to come to a place of forgiving each other. And we have to say this is history. The past is past, and it is past. And there is nothing that we can do about the past, but there's everything that we can do about the future. And finally and lastly, as I make this call for national reconciliation, a prerequisite to national reconciliation is the involvement of communities. The religious community, civil society actors, political parties, local leaders, all have a role to play. I still believe that when we were magnanimous enough and we were forward in our thinking to establish an ethnic relations commission, it was a recognition that we had a problem. And the composition of the Ethnic Relations Commission at that time brought together the communities, the religious leaders, the private sector, labor, women and youth to the table of dialogue, engagement. I still believe that we need in Guyana such a body as the Ethnic Relations Commission, not plagued by petty politics, not self-serving, and not being prejudiced, to lead a charge to bring about national reconciliation. But if the blind leads the blind, we will all fall in the ditch. We need people who are seeing, visionary enough to make the sacrifice. We need people who are seeing and visionary enough to leave a legacy, even though it costs them pain, to speak the truth, to act right, to make the pronouncements when they need to make, and not be silent in the face of such terrible atrocities. Guyana needs our communities. We need civil society. We need our religious leaders. We need all our stakeholders. We need our community leaders to come together. And may I ask all of us on this 13th anniversary to work together for national reconciliation. Thank you all, and God bless you very much.